On 1st of June, the Democratic Party held the delegates conference that happened in Uwera that saw a chaotic scenery, and the nation was discussing whether the oldest party in this country is headed towards the right direction. Today, on the inter-university debates, we discuss the state of internal party democracy, but also we put into perspective a review on the NGO laws, putting into consideration that there are certain proposals that the law puts in place, such as coming up with a national basket for all NGOs to put their funds in, among others. Joining me to discuss this very pertinent and interesting conversation is a panel of interesting but also very eloquent gentlemen and lady who will help us unpack and put perspective to this conversation. So in no particular order, I will introduce my guests, but also give them the opportunity to say hello, and then we get into the conversation. From my immediate right, I am joined by Guild President Emeritus, Kyambogo University, Honorable His Excellency Reagan Mwebesa. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello, our dear viewers. Maybe one thing Drake forgot to put right is that the chaotic party is where I belong.
Definitely.
So
I was coming to that because I know you're a very strong young Democrat.
A very ruthless one these days.
I know.
But I'm very glad to be here once again. I think the seats are about to get used to my scent, but it's really important, and I really thank you, Drake, and the organizers of this show for giving us this platform, especially to dissect on the issues that are really important, especially for the young people to know, and for their country at large, especially the state, to pick a few things from what we say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I know as a very staunch young Democrat, you're looking at your party and you're wondering, the famous meme that says, what occurred? Your party, and I know at this point when we get into the conversation, you'll give us your perspective and maybe what the party needs to do differently to reclaim its lost glory.
Very true.
The only lady on the show, Uwera, Sonia, you're most welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Uwera Sonia, a student at Kyambogo University, pursuing a bachelor's degree in economics and statistics, but also I work with an NGO called Hopestone Insight Uganda. I am so honored to be part of this discussion.
Thank you. We're looking forward to having an interesting conversation with you. Right next to Sonia, we are joined by an engineer by the names of Gilbert Bitariho. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Drake. My name is Kato Gilbert Bitariho. I work on two things. I run a company called Bethany Engineering Company Limited. Also, the group of young people, we founded and we're leading an organization called USAID Uganda, which is United Hearts for Socio-Economic Transformation. And looking at what we are going to today, I find there are really pertinent things and issues for us to be talking about. But also thank the organizers of this show for giving young people like us an opportunity to voice out these things and put them out to the world and the nation to benefit from our ideas, our views, also learn from what we have seen over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to having that interesting conversation with you. Last but not least, the gentleman who has been on the show a couple of times, but it's been a while since we had you on the show, Mr. Jotham Alinairwe. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Drake. My colleagues who have joined us here for the very first time, and our senior who has always been on this show. I'm very happy to be here once again. My name is Jotham Alinairwe. I'm a communication, governance, and policy specialist. I'm the founder for Lead Impact Hub, very passionate about public service and leadership politics. So recently we passed out a group of 16 fellows as public service fellows who will be running for political office. At the same time, will be joining public service to change the narrative. So we are trying to build a space with a public narrative and ethical leaders who are very accountable, but starting with the young junior leaders and equipping them with skills, knowledge, so that they can be transformative leaders, not those ones who will be fighting for boxes and fighting in parliament. So we are building, we are changing the narrative. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you run the organization called Lead Impact UG.
Yes.
And it's tremendous work you're doing with the Swedish Embassy in trying to build ethical leaders, as
Yeah.
you term them. We shall get to that. Let me get to the unethical one, because but sorry. Of course, I know Democratic Party is a very ethical party in its own self, because I also grew up in a house of DP, so I know the kind of leaders it has groomed. But also, growing in such a household, there are certain values that it has instilled in me as an individual. But that said, that doesn't mean I am DP on this show. I am entirely neutral, and they're just here to have a conversation. Let me start with you, Reagan. Today we are discussing the state of inter-party, the state of internal party politics or democracy, and looking at, we are headed towards 2026. And remember, just let me take us back. After the 2021 elections, the president said by the time 2026 comes, we will be done away with opposition. And at the moment, it seems opposition is almost done away with. And the oldest party, for context, on Sunday, as earlier on in my precursor, had a delegates conference that saw the incumbent president, who was successfully still elected, Honorable Norbert Mao, as the president of the Democratic Party, has raised a lot of eyebrows. We saw the chaos that happened. But on a broader sense, we have other political parties as well. We have the National Unity Platform, we have DP, we have FDC, now we have PFF, we have another Democratic Party coming up by the Right Honorable Matthias Mpuga. Yes. So it's a whole conundrum in its own self. But in a nutshell, I want us to look at the state of the internal party democracy. Of course, in context with what is happening with your party, the DP.
So thank you, Drake. I think the best thing that we can talk about is the reality of life. We operate in a Ugandan context where many politicians and leaders themselves do politics for do or die. Either win or win. And in the event that their ideas are not bought by the numbers, chaos has to erupt. The worst thing about an African setting is where interests of a few are used to misrepresent the majority. Today, as we speak, Democratic Party looks chaotic because of what happened live on TV. You know, these days everyone is a journalist. A phone, a camera, and anything that can be used to capture, even the voice media. But I need us to delve deep on the motive behind the chaos. There is a sentiment that itself had detached from DP. Traditionally, because they said the President General is in talks and dialogue with the state, and therefore we are not part of that. But because they thought this is the window that they can legitimately get the leadership, they came back to the Democratic Party, vying for positions. And now, today, I have a friend of mine I talked to in the morning, and I said, we almost had a delegates conference bigger, with numbers bigger than the votes DP sometimes gets. And why is because politicians have understood the game of numbers. They know numbers matter. Whether it is a logical or an illogical fellow, anyone, as long as they breathe and they can walk, they are put as part of a rally. But when we look at the people, for example, that move the party and the interests of the party, it now ceases to be the cause of the chaos, and we understand the motives of the party. This is the oldest party in Uganda, with a youth movement that is the second biggest in Africa. Yeah. So that means that this is a party that even other political parties fish from. The National Unity Platform, for example, exists because of the UID generals from Uganda University, from Kyambogo, from MUBS, and this is even where the NRM itself got the people. Yeah. The Jim Muhwezis, and all these people that went for the Liberation War were UID, for example. So
the current Deputy Speaker of Parliament.
The current Deputy Speaker of Parliament was a UID. So that means that this is a party we can't doubt its credibility. But this is now a party that needs to focus and say, what is the reason why this is happening like this? Because behind the chaos, I do believe there is something that is fundamentally wrong. And when we say that we are the Democratic Party, but the state of democracy in our party is bad because of how it's represented, how it's done, the mode of delivery, and how people are treated, it now becomes a worry for myself and for so many other young people that are under grooming to become the leaders of tomorrow. Because I do believe Norbert Mao, after his 4th term, he should give office to me or someone else who is capable. And they take on the leadership of the party, because it is not space physics that it is impossible to run these parties, because we have done things similar to the same. So I think the leadership of Democratic Party needs to dig deep and understand the cause of the chaos. And if we are a Democratic Party, it means dialogue, of course, is one of the most important things we focus on. We can't dialogue with the state without dialoguing amongst our members. So this is now a time that they should sit around the table and have a discussion that strikes a balance on multiple interests. Interests of those that cause the chaos, interests of those that seem to be humble and not affected, and at the end of the day, come to a consensus where they should bear in mind that it's a win or win. If I strike a deal with Drake, for example, I may have to lose some of the things I so much believe in to align with Drake. So to our party leadership, of course, congratulations to those who are elected, and to our new UID president, Helen Zion Ashaba, congratulations. But I think the delegates conference was enough for us to accept that there is something that must be addressed in a way that doesn't hit on the head, but gives space for dialogue. Because when we look at other parties and the state of politics, of course, when we talk about democracy in parties, why would we lie that NRM has democracy within itself when it has a sole candidate for multiple terms in office? So that is one of the ways you see that it is lagging. But you also notice that these guys have a leader from the village. I think His Excellency Museveni, in as much as I usually disagree a lot with a lot he says, I will agree that the notion of political parties will be totally done by 2026 is almost right. Why? National Unity Platform, which is the biggest opposition party, literally has no structures. They only exist in some parts of Uganda and some parts of Busoga. In 2021, a friend of mine, because he loved money, chose to be an agent of NUP such that he can be paid at a polling station in Lukunjiri district. And the man was almost battered by people who knew him. This I thought, as a young man by then, that this party would understand that we may have lost this election. Of course, they say they were cheated and all that. But they can say that. But when you don't have structures in my village, for example, if you don't have an LC3 chairperson of the National Unity Platform in Lukunjiri, a town council chairperson of the National Unity Platform, a district chairperson of the National Unity Platform, and all you have is a president, some members of the executive committee, and vice presidents of regions, I think you can't say that you want to take this man down. A man has, as far as the village, even the database of NRM itself, can win an election if they contest today. Because if you have a youth leader, 3 from every village, they transit to an LC2, transit to an LC3, go as far as a district. As we speak, these guys have already chosen these leaders. Before even PFF can say we have formalized our processes, the guys already have a huge database of millions of voters. Because the moment I hold a leadership position, it is now my mandate that I must support this party in whatever way I can. Of course, when you look at all these other parties that are coming up, I just hope it is not for business reasons. We all know that political parties are funded, and anyone who disagrees with a party and they feel they have the social capital, they start theirs, which is a very wrong notion for this country. I actually do believe that if opposition was serious, they all have strongholds in multiple parts of the country. We have parts of this country where you can never win UPC. We have parts of the country where DP will win you hands down. If all these political parties merged into one meaningful thing, I do believe we would have change. Otherwise, if they don't, I actually gave this government like 5 more years and we shall be totally finished. Because if the Democratic Party, which has been the most organized, looked at that chaos in a delegates conference of people who dialogue, people who are accommodative, and we have exchange of huge statements and fists and people stepping down because they call a process sham, we are destined for doom.
Okay.
So as I wind up, Drake, I do believe we can honestly agree that the state of internal politics only exists in a few. Because, for example, in the National Unity Platform, where they have an electoral management committee that is mandated, if you imagine someone sits in Kavule and because he has done a sample of Kawempe, he chooses to award a card to Jotham. You get it? Yesterday, I had a very hot argument with a friend of mine who is a very good Noop diehard. He's actually a surveyor I work with a lot. So I told him, we are trying to, you're saying you guys really want to usher in a new government. But if you want to usher in a new government, you must be better than the current government at structures. FDC lasted long because of the way it was organized. FDC had a power 10 where a one Jotham would be a delegate of registering 10 other people from as far as the village. That means that these guys were as deep as the village. You can't, when they of course push the notion of, oh, we are suffocated, we are not given the space to say anything, we are not given the space to create structures, power 10 was there. And this government has been this rowdy. So I think something must be done. Especially the biggest recommendation I make as a youth is that parties must focus on how to create more space for the youth. I've seen today a register showing how many leaders NRM expects at national level, and there are only 3 slots for the youth. In DP, we only have 1 UID president who sits as part of the big people in the DP block. NUP only has a head of the institution's wing as a representative of the youth, who sometimes is even not a youth, because institutions, anyone can study, even a 45-year-old can head the institutions. So I think these parties need to create a shed that is big enough to accommodate the interests of the young people, that is big enough to think beyond the politics of where you come from, because recently we have seen sons and daughters of generals have come to finish us from the village to the national. And where does that leave a Mwebesa, a son of a peasant, with brilliant ideas, and he thinks we should push this country forward? So this is a discussion that we may never exploit, because the problems, even after we leave, many more will be created. But I believe that we are destined for doom if nothing is done in these political parties.
All right.
The biggest challenge, my last point, Drake, I had while at university as a student leader, was the fact that in this country and in all universities and institutions, anyone can stand up and be a leader from nowhere. Someone has even never led a desk or never collected coursework for a friend, but they have the audacity to stand and even lead thousands of people. And this is what is even affecting us in our political parties. Traditionally, there was mentorship, and it ceases to be. That is why you see we have very many young people who have crossed from political party to another more than even the old people, because there is no sense of direction, no mentorship, and the state of internal politics in parties is very dangerous.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jotham, if my memory serves me right, you are a very profound member of ANT.
No. No, Drake.
I'm kidding. I am kidding. I just want to get your reaction. All right.
But I have a right, so to be affiliated to any political party.
Definitely.
No, time will come. I'm still assessing, waiting for the manifestos.
Okay. The reason as to why I first started with that joke, I wanted to see a reaction that you get and that you give. Many young people who are oftentimes caught in between choosing a political party are looking at opposition is weakened, and those with at least some the so-called sense of morality and ethics will say the national resistance movement as a party in its own self doesn't hold the values that they would want to opt for. So where do they stand? Where Jotham has just said, I am non-partisan. In the middle. But the issue, the reason as why I'm bringing this is I want us to talk about what we just stopped on the issue of mentorship and grooming in these parties that we once knew. Because talking about internal party democracy, we needless to say, we need to talk about the grooming of leaders to pick a sense of direction, the values that are instilled in these leaders to pick up a party and fight for it. The reason as to why we have Reagan, who has still stood firm in UID, amidst all the challenges that it stands with, he's still a strong UID member because he knows the values and principles of the Democratic Party. Something that very many young people who are in parties today do not know. And a person who is such as yourself, who is first of all woke and knows what is right and what is wrong, is torn between a party that possibly seem to at least have some sort of values that they want to affiliate with, but oftentimes get blurred in the middle. Now, I want you to help us unpack the issue around mentorship, because you, of course, are leading an organization that is dealing with grooming young people in terms of course, you term them as ethical leaders. And that is something I want to understand, because this is relatable to, of course, grooming the internal party politics that we're talking about, because these parties need these leaders.
Thank you so much, Drake. I think I'll refer to my colleague what he said earlier on in regards to mentorship for young people who are joining politics and political parties. Apparently, the few young, vibrant people like Reagan who have decided to choose their political party at a younger stage, they often be offended in regards when they join these political parties, and they are always chased away from the decision table. And that's why you'll find we are having the youth league, the youth wing, all those sort of, they're chasing them. And surprisingly, when we are having the national youth delegates, let it be NRM, let it be NUP, they will be like, where is the youth league? The young girls will be the ones serving water. The energetic men like Reagan will be in parking, and yet the meeting is ongoing. So those are the challenges that we are facing. They are not mentoring them, they are forming a certain sort of, it's like a bucket where they're bringing them on board, but in actual senses, they're not on the decision table.
But Jotham, as a form of mentorship, being a briefcase boy isn't a problem. We have seen it in history. The likes of Milton Obote, when he was mentoring the boys in UPC, the likes of the late Mutebile, the likes of the previous prime minister of this country, No, not Apollo Sivambi. Amama Mbabazi. Yeah, the likes of Joseph Ocheno. These were briefcase boys. Yeah, which of course still amounted to the mentorship.
There is a very huge difference from a briefcase boy. This is a person who is always behind that person, seeking mentorship. Is closer to the decision-making table. He will always hear what they are saying. He will always hear what they are discussing. But we are looking in form of political parties forming youth leagues in form of mentorship, and at the end of the day, they are not given opportunities. They will invite them as youth leagues, but they will not be in ongoing decision-making tables. For example, as I've told you, we have the NRM Youth League, we have the NUP Youth Wing, and the UID, and all those mentorship platforms. But when we are having serious conversations, for example, the national delegates or even at their political parties, as the meeting is ongoing, we're having a very huge serious meeting which is ongoing for political structures and what, the same political party is looking for people who to support them. These are the guys who are very seriously outside engaging. The meeting is sitting inside the boardroom. You are outside. You are not close at the decision-making table. So that is the very huge thing, the huge difference between a briefcase boy who will be behind. You will be asking, give me this document, give me this pen. So this person will be mentored naturally. And those are the few in those political parties who have godfathers in those political parties who will have an opportunity to sit with them, guide with them, mentor them. And another thing, surprisingly, in these youth league structures, you join as a youth, these are the guys who will insist and remain there for years. Surprisingly, if you have been in two political parties, there are those names that we can't mention. You go at an NRM secretariat, they say this person from a youth, being the chair of the youth league, then is into the advisory chair of the youth leagues, is advising the youth leagues. So you are centered in that form that you're not growing, and your mind is centered that you are youth forever and ever. So the mentorship that would love to look into political parties, bringing these young people on board, giving them structures, include them on different committees that are happening. You find we are looking the Electoral Commission management. How many youth are on that panel? And who is representing them? So we are looking in form of mentorship that you're giving an opportunity to these people. We see if we are in the youth league, how many have you attached, for example, in a political party like ANT, if we have a youth league, we can attach maybe a cluster of 5 young leaders who want to be like either vying for different political positions in future. We can attach them to Honorable Winkiza, we can attach them to Honorable Mugisha Muntu, Gerard Karuhanga for mentorship and guidance, not sending them on their youth league and blindfolding them, giving them budgets. Like, this is your budget. In case of what, we are sending you, we are bringing you different facilitators. So those are the things that are being blindfolded in this capacity. And I've had very interesting stories through mentorship, because I've had the youngest, we had like 5 young youth who are running for political offices. So we were having honest conversations with them in terms of support. As long as you're into a political party and you are youth, you are saying, I want to run for this space, I want to run for this political position in your party, you are pushed aside. You are seen as an enemy. You are seen, you are growing, you will be, you are like fighting some of the internal, like you are dividing the resources. The happiness of some political parties is seeing you around. As I've told you, you are in parking, you are carrying posters, you are carrying placards on street. They will be like, now that is our foot soldier on ground, you are working. But as long as you want to stand up, how many youth have you seen, how many young political leaders have you seen on different political shows? But don't we have youth leagues? Have you ever seen being sent on different spaces on different televisions, talking? For example, if you have seen Frontline, every time it's a political party that nominates, say, our spokesperson, go attack this. Like, they have never even given, the opportunities are there, but they're not being exposed. We have seen delegates traveling abroad for different programs. I don't want to mention different political parties, but how many youth have you seen being attached on those delegates? Every time they be posting on their social media that we're having, yeah, we're in Chicago for this Democracy Alliance governance. How many youth have you seen in those engagements? And those are few who have godfathers attached to them. So these spaces, the names of youth leagues, where and where I would encourage young leaders, go on the table. Don't go being, no, we are the daughters of the NRM 7 girls, we are the Noob Foot Soldiers Youth League. That's bullshit. Go on that decision table. And as long as you choose to be in those, I don't say youth leagues are bad, but they need to be empowered. But they need also to be brought on the decision table. Right. As long as you see yourself, you choose to be there, you will grow in that, you reach 70 and still fighting for that position of a youth league.
Okay, you just
the best example to supplement on what he has said of mentorship, is the longest serving party in Tanzania. I had a chance.
Chama cha Mapinduzi.
Those guys, one of the reasons why they have stuck to power for as long as ever is the way they mentor their youth.
Exactly, yeah.
They know of a Jotham in University of Dar es Salaam, Students Guild. Attach him to Drake, who is already a very established politician. They even have schools in Tanzania that train diplomacy, that train leadership and governance. And the youth, for example, a guild president of University of Dar es Salaam is automatically a member of Chama cha Mapinduzi who is mentored intentionally. The difference in Uganda is that a guild president on NRM ticket from Makerere to NRM offices to pin posters in Lira, that is like sleeping in a garage and hoping to be a car. You will never be the car. So I think he has the very big point of mentorship, but mentorship that is intentional and not just following the crowd.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm concluding. He tapped on my time. So the best example, I think the world you can one is Edward Sifuna, is the spokesperson, the general secretary for UD, the one in Kenya. He joined the political party. He was sent as a youth to join the youth league. Then he asked, what is the role of a youth league? They insisted, like, no, you need to be on that table. Then for him, he said, I'm coming here in this meeting as part of the youth league. So when he entered in that meeting, they refused him to speak. Like everyone else, no, for you are still young, first wait. For you are still young, first wait. Until he out-reasoned them, and after out-reasoning them, do you know what happened? That day they had a certain TV show, it's on Citizen, and they're like, no, this young boy can go and represent us. You first go and represent us. So those are the opportunities we are talking about, that if we can create avenues for these young people, that if you are in a political party, you have a safer space for you, and we can always give you available opportunities. Opportunities are there, but accessing them and giving them to these young people.
All right, let me get to Sonia and my brother Gilbert. But let me start with you, Gilbert. The conversation has started on in a very high gear. We have seen the analysis from my brother Reagan in regards to what's the state of the internal party democracy in DP, but also he elucidated on a couple of other opposition parties. But then we first narrowed down the conversation to the fundamentals, and that is the young people that are supposed to be the crop of leaders that inform, of course, the party. And right now what we're experiencing, the chaos that is happening in these parties as a result of, first of all, the lack of mentorship that is existent in those parties. But also we're seeing young people buy into ideas, not knowing the idea that they're following. And that is why I brought in Jotham to give us that analysis on the aspect of mentorship, but also choosing a particular direction. But now let's go back to laying the foundation in terms of the structures of these political parties. In the year 2005, the Constitution went ahead and provided us with, we came up with an amendment for a multi-party democracy, which was essential, and that saw a birth of numerous political parties. We moved away from the movement system and came up with the multi-party politics. And that is why we now say, of course, since then we have seen a birth of numerous political parties. Of course, we have seen the Forum for Democratic Change. We have DP came back, UPC. Those are among the traditional political parties that we have in this country, among other political parties that are not talked about. So, in terms of structures, but also in terms of talking about the chaos that is already brewing in most of these parties, the argument would be that, of course, the National Resistance Movement, they say they have been very generous in offering political parties resources in regards to, of course, the numbers that you put into parliament. You're given a significant amount to contribute to your activities. So the argument they will then raise is, we do not have enough resources as the ruling government because they get most of the money to build up and set up the structures to enable them be in position to have a very vibrant political party. But he has given us an example of the quartet that we saw with the Forum for Democratic Change in the early 2000s, that even with the minimal resources that they had a very robust structure, which we do not see today. What we see today is FDC Katonga, FDC Najanankumbi. We see DP erupting in chaos. We see individuals moving themselves away from a political party and forming their own, creating more factions. So let us first of all build that layer of the structures with involvement of a component of the young people, and then bring it on in regards to, of course, on that note.
Thank you so much, Drake. This is a very timely discussion concerning the political landscape of Uganda, and especially we are now engaging young people to talk about this. Now, when we talk about the internal democracy of political parties in Uganda, just so you may know that the last report that was made by EC, not only the current ones, it talked of the 26 political parties that are so far registered with EC known. I'm not talking about the ones that you knew yesterday, the ones that are coming in. Now, we're now pairing up. By 2026, we may have 30 by that time. But when you look at these structures, every time once I mention a political party now, there's an individual coming to your head. So political parties now it's not like it's like an individual comes. Exactly, an individual comes in a way of fronting his own interests. He wants to pull out an umbrella that will push for his own interests as a person. And that scenario gives us a sense that people come. You have seen it, this conversation, someone says, let's build structures. Says, I left this party because they refused to obey the advice of us building structures. Simply because there was someone outstanding and this was the person everyone was believing in. When you look at DP, for over the years, we have had only one person take up that position. Look at NRM, for over the years, we had one person take up that position. I want you to imagine Noop without Bobby Wine. Do we have Noop in that case? So it means we have political parties that are just fronting. The problem, number one problem is to have personal interests that are now disturbing and deterring from party structures. And once the party structures do not meet their personal interests, then no one will even obey and accept to have them. Now, looking at the growth of these political parties, I want to tell you this honestly, that every time we dodge doing what is important but not urgent, the time will come, these urgent things will stop us from doing what is important. Because when you see, I want to ask you something. If we are seeing what is happening now in the country with political parties, it is just because we are nearing 2026. All these things happening, they had enough time to happen before. Why? People are now targeting the next election. Now, my brothers were talking about an important aspect of nurturing the leaders of political parties. If that was in place, that people are nurturing, you don't see this chaos here. But because our only target is on the next election, 2026, everyone will sleep and wait to raise when the time is coming up. Because when you see what is happening with young people, I always want to say it this way. We are always invited to a party. It's like when you go with your dog. They invite you to a party, but you get the bones and throw them away. The dog gets confused with the bones as when the flesh is being shed on the table. This is what is happening. When you tell that young people are invited in NRM, don't think that young people are involved. They just invite them, throw bones there in the corners where the flesh is being eaten on the table. That's what is happening. You will see that there is a youth league, there's a what league. But I want to ask you, like my brother were asking, what is the involvement of these young people we're bringing on board? And of course, there's something people normally do. Leaders always do it. Divide and rule still works. People always want people want to wash themselves clean. Every party knows that the future of any forest lies on the capacity of its young trees. So each one of them will attach itself to something that youth kind of. We have a youth league, we have a youth something, so that they know at least this party is grooming something.
They tick a box.
And they tick a box that we want to wash our hands clean and pull that off. But when you look at what happens in the long run, because they have invited you, they are not groomed you, you are undiscipled, you're not mentored, in the long run, you fail by yourself when they are watching. And they themselves will tell you that young people are unprepared for this.
We gave them space.
We gave them space and they failed. Why? You are undiscipled. And it is true. When you look at what is happening with the young people, someone gets a position and you wonder, this person had a mentorship, this person was taught, this person was invited, or just because some big person is just inviting a person. Now, getting back to what you were asking me about the political landscape and the foundation of what we're looking at political parties. Most of these things happening are not like new things. We have seen them happen. Because when you see people, I want to see new political parties now that are coming up, it is someone who has been part of a political party that has come from one party and gone into another party. So which shows that this person also is coming to stand, is a standalone entity. If what Mpuga has started, Mpuga goes away, that will not stand. My brother speaks of the party of the Chama cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania. If we know of all these democratic countries, they have political parties. For example, if America is in an election, they're either Republicans or Democrats. Even if you don't know a candidate, you know that once we go to the election, the political party so is coming and they will front a candidate. We have reached that level. 2036, we know that NRM will bring so and so, we know that NUP will bring so and so, and without these people, still there will be what? There will be chaos. And then another thing is about the inter-party democracy. Now these parties have these silent giants that are never given an opportunity. I want to imagine a scenario where my brother grows, he's not given an opportunity and is progressing, but reaches a point, he feels like, I can now do something. This is where a breeze comes to burst. Someone has been part of you, but they have been suppressed and suffocated for so long. That's when they say, okay, I now have to leave this and do something that serves the interests of me as a person and serve the fellow young people. Now, for me, one thing I want to differ from what my brothers are saying about the young people. When these guys give us a trap and we fall into it, they, in the end, accuse us. Because people know very well that the best way not to let you become independent is me to keep feeding you without showing you the source of what I'm feeding you. These guys know that for them to reach where they are, they have been attached to someone. Isaac Newton says that if I've been able to see far, it's because I've been standing on the shoulders of giants. It is the constant of life. Whatever is happening, someone is raising, you must get attached to someone who gets you somewhere. These guys know that. And to confuse us the more, they assume that they are bringing us closer, but to confuse us in that state. Like they say, you see, it confuses me when someone is invited and say, the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. Some people are even crossing the age of the youth when they're still surviving on the same promise that you're the leaders of tomorrow. But because you're in that vicious cycle, someone is lying to you, it stays like that. Now, in the long run, we have had a problem, we as the young people. And this problem has been, because we have been undiscipled and mentored, we're just on our own. We have become drunk. My brother in medicine talks about drunkenness in 3 phases. Phase number 1 is a drunk person becomes all-knowing. Now, because we have all these ideas, we are powerful, we have seen these things, we have become all-knowing that we cannot even listen to anything around us of value and of reason to take us anywhere. And in the long run, these guys have said, we can't deal with young people, don't invite them on the table. You know why? They will become a problem.
Exactly.
Because they feel we are all-knowing, but they are not getting our knowledge. Now, phase number 2 is that we have become all-powerful. When you see people get into demonstrations, whom are they looking for? Let me tell you, whether it was ECOP, whether it was whatever demonstration, they always looked for young people to front. Because they know young people feel that they're all powerful. They have the energy, they have the time, so we can use them and front them. After all, we shall throw them away. Stage number 3, we have become invisible. So if you see what is happening, maybe with our social medias, our young people have come to a place where someone, my friend says, we are where the government wants us to be. This conversation we're having here, there are very few young people who are interested in these conversations. If you tell them it's a gone case, they have given up, now what can we chase? We can look at the easiest thing. Someone can even feel like they're undressing themselves, get a following on TikTok, get paid, because that's how we have seen things roll. But what is causing this? Our people who should have given us that guiding hand, nurturing us, leading us to become these important people, have seen us as threats. And what they are doing is killing our potential, killing our abilities in the name of bringing us closer and calling us the youth and the leaders of tomorrow.
Interesting analysis. Let me just get, of course, we as young people, we are all knowing, all powerful and invisible. That's a takeaway that I want to engage my sister Sonia on that, because the involvement of women in power or in politics is very fundamental. And we have seen that over the years, and we have seen it as history has proven that the involvement of women and girls in politics fundamental in terms of building a party. Parties such as the Democratic Party itself, UPC, Uganda People's Congress, among other political parties, have been very vocal, of course, in the idea of the involvement of women in their history, but also the national resistance movement among other political parties. And right now we are in a phase whereby, of course, my brother says we are all knowing, all powerful and invisible. And at a time whereby we are having a decline of involvement of young girls and women in politics because one, they're afraid, or two, they're not being given the space, or three, issues relating to sexual, either sexual assault or any sexual indiscipline that is in the space leads to a decline in involvement of girls and women in these spaces, which of course affects the various parties. So I want you to help us, give us a perspective of a young girl who will possibly, of course, has a say in issues of national governance and issues of involvement of women and girls in these spaces.
Thank you very much. Before answering that, I would like to first give my submission on the earlier on discussions. And I'll give an example of the politics that we have at campus. You will find, for example, a candidate that is contesting, you find that the funds, like his funds or the people he is like fighting with, you find that there are people of different interests. Like you will wonder, how come this person is supporting this person? So you find that this, like they have different interests, so they are not going to be able to achieve their goal because they have different interests. And just to relate it with the state of the internal party democracy, you find that people are fighting together, but again they have different interests. That is not going to work. That's why they will always have the conflicts and everything to do with the conflicts. But also there is an issue of transparency. You find that these parties are not transparent enough. They are working together, but even amongst themselves, they still have the trust issues. They are not trusting themselves. So that's why the chaos and they'll always be happening. And then about the women involvement in the leadership and politics, it is true. We are not strong enough. We are afraid.
Really?
Yeah, that I'll be honest.
You're not strong enough. Are you speaking for yourself or for the women?
Okay, for myself, but again,
because
we are being honest.
Because we, for example, in the Democratic Party under the UID, we have the formidable Helen Zayuni, who is the current president of the young people.
No, you see, we have to.
So are you going to retract that statement? Or are you going to retain it?
Okay.
But
yeah. But honestly speaking, politics requires you to be. Okay, it is a dirty game, honestly, and I do not think that women, we are brave enough to engage in that space. And most women, I believe we are not brave enough to enter into that space. There is a lot that happens. For example, even at campus, you find people are being killed during the campaigns. All those things, I believe they are not enough for us. They are not safe for us to engage in that kind of space.
All right, thank you.
The space gets tricky. Why I said most women is that if you find a dangerous woman politically,
I know,
she can hit you on the head and you will never return.
She's lethal.
I imagine like opponents of Right Honorable Nabanja. Whatever they go through must be dangerous. There are some. Her point is really, really good. And it's something, of course, we can benchmark on for further discussion. But my view may not so much resonate with hers because I think ladies are involved in politics. President Museveni has even shown that they are even capable. The vice president is a lady. Speaker is a lady. Prime Minister, a lady. Man, by the time you get to such a position, or even that appointment, you have fought. In this country, even being a member of the LC1 committee in the village, there is a time I jokingly contested for LC1. The requirement was, do you have a home here? No. Are you usually here? No. Now, where will you keep a stamp? You don't have a house, you don't have a wife, you don't have... So it was even so expensive to read a village where a guy is paid by square year, or is it 10,000 shillings?
They've increased they've increased it to a monthly, but I think 300,000.
Not yet approved.
It's a suggestion.
So that itself shows you that the terrain is very slippery for a lady who is not on foot. I think that's the best way we can say. Because it is really dangerous, especially in a university setting. A funny story of myself. There is a day I woke up at 4 when I was contesting for guild president to pin posters. And the NUP foot soldiers beat me with my foot soldiers. You get it? So I asked myself, what happens if this is a lady? They will give up automatically.
Yeah.
I used to wake up at 4 in the morning and go to sleep at 2 in the night for 3 months looking for votes. And I asked myself, if this is a lady, what will happen? And at times my team would be hard on me and I would want to fight, but I can't. These guys, I'm even not paying them to support me. And then I would look at the 3, 4 days, 5 days a week, a lady is not okay. And she may not have to miss, because when you miss looking for votes in those days, the opinion polls will change automatically. So her point is really good. It can always be expounded on, but I do believe that if you meet a lady who is politically dangerous, you are finished. So
I just wanted to add on something small about women in politics. In Africa globally, women, Afrobarometer statistics, I think, are the one of the credible statistics we have. We have seen from Africa from 1% right now. By last year, we have 26 of women taking up political spaces. In Uganda, it has increased to 33%, and we see like there is that change. And I think through different mentorship programs, we have had political safe spaces for political women. But initially, for a woman to run for a political office, it costs a lot. These are people who are battling with families, relationship, then, you know, scientifically, they have that thing of emotions. So really, it has been one of the most tense things. And I think we need also to see how we can create safe spaces for women to take up political spaces. My colleague has said President 7 has shown that women can take up political spaces. We have seen how aggressive, how the Prime Minister is trying to change the narrative. That's like, yes, we can work. Yeah. Also, we have seen different women. Honorable Miriam Atembe, like those people change the narrative and have created a safer space for women to join politics.
But the question is, are the girls taking up those spaces? Because the conversation that Miriam always pushes, we are losing the girls. But let's go for a short break. We'll just be right back. Just an hour's go for a short break. Douglas Drake Onen, this is the Inter-University Debate. See you in a bit.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break. Just before we went into the break, we've been discussing the state of internal party democracy. And just before we get into the conversation around the NGO policy and the proposed amendment on the 2024 NGO Act, let's just finalize the conversation around, of course, the state of internal party democracy. Just do one more round, of course, of recommendations and wrapping up the status. I'll begin with you, Reagan. In your earlier submissions, you talked about structures, and something that I would want you to address is the National Resistance Movement has the biggest budget when it comes to, of course, the numbers they send into government, but in parliament, of course, that means they get the biggest amount or the chunk in regards to the budget. And the other subsequent parties either get peanuts, I would say. So I would like you to respond to that. But then secondly, you provided, you talked about a coalition of opposition parties. You made us try to imagine and think what would happen if these opposition parties came together. We have seen this before in 2010, 2016 with Go Forward. Some opposition parties came together, and then later on we realized it was a front by the National Resistance Movement to divert the opposition. So I would like you to speak on that, because the allegations that we are seeing opposition parties at the moment coming as a mirror of the ruling government, just to sway or to steer away numbers from the opposition. But then lastly, your recommendation ascertaining on creating more space for the young people. Give us, I just wanted to highlight on that quickly, then we can shift gears so that everyone can also give their last thoughts in that regard.
Thank you, Drake. I am going to be as brief as possible. About the financial muscle of political parties, if the event is to see how to write the numbers and to do activities, I know you know of a sample of 2011 when Chiza Besigye was going to areas to campaign, and the people themselves would give him money. We have private funders, of course, much as the state will frustrate them, but we have people in districts like Rukunjiri, like Kanungu, that I'm well versed with, who have the goodwill to even put in their own money in activities of parties for the good of the party. So money has never been an issue, but because money can't buy people, in an election, if you want to use money, you will never afford us. You will eat the money and then at the end of the day, still serve the interest of ourselves. So, in as much as it's true, financial resource is an issue to be discussed, especially amongst the political parties. But I also think it is one of the reasons why we are having very many parties that don't really make logical sense, have no ideology, have no ideals, have no structures, but they look at the money at the end of the day. And it's a source of livelihood for many of the political parties.
No, but also recently we are seeing a reform in the Political Parties Act that, of course, political parties that do not conform or be part of IPOD will not be able to receive those resources.
It is like forcefully telling them join IPOD. That is also a discussion for another day.
I know.
But I do believe financial resource, in as much as may be a limitation, but it's not a reason for them being as badly off as they are today, because even the little they get barely even does anything. That aside, space for the youth in political parties is not a bargain. We are not bargaining for that, and we are not pleading. I think as young people we need to rise up and fight for this space, because no one will willingly offer it to us. The reality of life is that it's very unfortunate that in a political space, what a 70-year-old is looking for, even a 25-year-old needs it. That is the political space itself. You all want to get to a leadership position. This man has worked for as long as you have lived. He has had money from when you were not born up to currently. I imagine someone who contests like against Moses Ari, or contests against Kutesa. These are guys who have been working before my father was born, because my father is 48. Moses Ari has been here from 1970, I think 75. So that means that it's quite tricky. But we as young people need to know that this space is not just meant for us, but we shall create a space for ourselves. We need to rise up and stand to the occasion. As of course I wind up, the coalition is practically impossible because we even realize opposition political parties fight themselves even more than how NRM fights them. Democratic Front is high against NUP. They want to show that the NUP lawyers are not credible as of today. Then PFF has a very big issue with FDC, and FDC says, I'll take you to court. So the coalition is practically impossible. But I do believe that Uganda should not on any day transit to the politics of identity, that Drake is the only one who can push our ideas. Let's push him. If Drake is no more, the party is no more. And it's quite unfortunate. So I do believe that, that said, we must fight for the space as young people, fearlessly. And at the end of the day, we shall have equal representation. Then about the financial, no, let's ready the numbers to be with us. And when we have the numbers, we have the money.
Okay.
Because even the money that is given proportionate to the number of MPs also depends on the numbers, because the numbers are the ones who send the members of parliament. So I think parties should focus on numbers and ideology. I think why NRM is starting to stand seriously is the fact that they have now an established ideology. DP has existed for 70 and so years because of an ideology. From day one when I was inducted, I knew this is what this party stands for. So even when I'm voted as a student leader, I am standing by the values of the party. So likewise, we should keep, of course, having an accommodative and inclusive environment. When we talk about young people, somehow it's unfortunate that we don't talk about the young people with disabilities who are not actually disabled, but they just have special needs as people. So let's have a transformative, accommodative, and inclusive society. And I do believe political parties shall be a place for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Sonia, your recommendations for our political parties as we wind up this segment?
I will recommend that the parties do not, okay, even when they consider the numbers, but let the numbers be of cream. Let them have members that are willing to be loyal, not just members, because that's when they will have the conflicts. But numbers should not just be numbers, but members who are loyal and who are willing to stand for the values of the party. Yes.
Interesting. Gilbert.
Thank you so much, Drake. About political parties, my recommendation number one would be that let's build party structures, not party individuals, because structures will exist and supersede individuals, but individuals will fall and live without these structures. Because if you see what is happening currently, some parties that have actually lived long, even people following them are not existing. But because there have been these ideologies, there have been these structures, these parties are still standing. If parties can focus on building structures, not rushing for what is next, but looking at what we can build a foundation for the party and rebuild on that until we reach a time where we say that now the party stands, it has power. When you talk about a party, it's a party, not a party representing the interests of someone. To me, that would be a very good strategy for parties to now grow, but also make it so inclusive for the young people, but make it intentionally include them, not just bring them as maybe puppets or use them for something. Intentionally include them and let them be part of the process. Because when you want the people to take over, they should take over what they know. I want to feel that if some young people are given a position in some of the parties, they would never know where to begin from. Let us build structures of the parties, not individuals, and let us also intentionally include young people and mentor them to take over leadership when these parties reach a time and these elders have left.
Interesting. Jotham, I know you're going to make a recommendation in regards to mentorship.
No, actually no. I think the most important recommendation I'm recommending to political parties is to drive more into data. Data is the most thing that political parties have neglected. The most recent example is when NUP and NRM had a clash over the power, over the last elections we had in Uganda, where NUP was saying that we won, and NRM also said that they won. And at the end of the day, if we have 366 members of parliament are on NRM card, and you have 60. So you need to provide data and you analyze. Can the 60, if we combine their data and what, can they really come up to that merge election for no political party? But at the same time, also structures are very important, starting from the grassroots, that each political party, if they can work and invest in time to see that in their local area, local communities, in different zonal areas. We had there is a time FDC had the zonal committees and what. So if we can see, we can avail so much if political parties can avail enough information and also people to their political grassroots ground. But lastly, I cannot fail to talk about mentorship. Mentorship is very important for political parties to survive. If the Norbert Maus, if the current Deputy Secretary General of NRM and other politicians, if they were not mentored by then those political parties, FDC mentored the speaker, so the deputy speaker, all those were through mentorship. They gave them platforms and space, and right now they are thriving. So if we keep silent on mentorship, and our young leaders in these political parties will end up thinking that it is a pleasure joining a political party and putting on a shirt of a political party than taking up spaces around. And lastly, let us avoid greediness is in political party. You find, starting from the Secretary General, the Electoral Commission Management Committee, the brother to the brother of the political party, all of them are vying for political positions. The spokesperson is also running for political office. And then who is going to lead the party now, if all of you are leaving it, if you have not mentored the same people? So that's the most challenging thing we are having in political parties right now, that everyone who is holding a position wants to run for a political party. Like if you go to NOP now, the Secretary General is running for a political position. The chairman, Nyanzi, head of mobilization, is also running for a political position. The secretary to the principal of the political party is running for a political position. The spokesperson is also running for a political position. Like now, who is going to sustain the political party? So that's why I'm insisting on mentorship. We know we have Reagan, we have Gilbert, Sonia. They are standby and they are running and protecting our values and assessing them. If we have that, then I do believe our political parties, we are good to go, that to see a couple of transitions from this political party to this political party as they are leading their government.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
So at this point, I would like us to shift gears and talk about of course, allow me give context. A couple of you here are part of NGOs, also lead NGOs as well. And remember last year, there was a proposal by government to rationalize MDAs. And among which, of course, the NGO Bureau is among the MDAs that were supposed to be, of course, rationalized. And the conversation that I want us to have at this point is, of course, among the proposed reforms we have there that the NGOs should have a one pool of basket where all their resources are put there. But before we get into those reforms, allow me give context to this conversation. The Center for Constitutional Governance, with support from GIZ and the European Union, have been doing work in regards to this. But just allow me read verbatim. So they've conducted an assessment, which was, of course, commissioned by the Center for Constitutional Governance with support from GIZ, Civil Society in Uganda Support Program, which was, of course, co-financed by the European Union and the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And it's implemented by, of course, GIZ to assess the impact of the NGO policy. That being to assess the NGO policy. So the Center for Constitutional Governance is, of course, a regional organization based in Uganda. It reaches out to Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, South Sudan, among other East African countries, with a cardinal goal of strengthening constitutional governance by bridging the gaps in governance and challenges in policy and regulatory framework. So the study that CCG conducted sought to provide a deep understanding of the existing trends in the sector and provide insight into the potential reforms. Specifically, the objective was to assess the NGO policy and the NGO Act, highlighting key legal and constitutional issues as well as issues of concern. The second was to seek stakeholder understanding of the key issues. The third is to make recommendations, and the fourth is to participate in the mobilization process. So the context of the NGO sector in Uganda is Uganda has one of the most regulated NGO sectors globally, with NGOs facing obligations under more than 15 laws, the primary being the NGO Act. So the government is undertaking a regulatory impact assessment, and so far it has come up with 3 rather contentious and dangerous proposals. Namely, 1, to create a basket fund for NGOs where all donors put money and then government reallocates or disburses the money to NGOs. Yeah. The second is to create an apex body to regulate NGOs in Uganda. So this apex body shall be the National Council for NGOs, and government will benchmark with Tanzania. Then thirdly, donors who do not put their money in the basket fund shall be mandated to seek cabinet approval before they can directly fund any NGO. As young people who are concerned, and with the forever shrinking civic space, just a few weeks ago we saw what happened with the UPDF and the Federal Republic of Germany, whereby the cooperation between the two, of course, message was put out by Colonel Chris Majezi that they have suspended any cooperation between the two. This conversation is timely because as young people who, of course, are someone like me who has been mentored by non-government organizations, I know what it means for funding. And if government is to come ahead and create, a basket fund that all donors put money, and then they have to, the government to relocate money to what? Then that just puts it creates loopholes, and it just shows you how exactly we are running as a country. But let's start. Reagan, I want to begin with you on this one. These proposals of coming up with a basket fund. What are your thoughts, really? Because we know that, of course, the space is evolving. The interest of the West is also changing.
Of course.
But nonetheless, we are still a country that relies heavily on donor funding. And if you're to move in the outskirts of this country, some districts survive on the existence of these NGOs. What are your thoughts?
This is a government that is in its evenings.
Yeah.
I say that unapologetically. This government is on its way out. If you push a dog to a corner and suppress it there, you will not expect it to say, oh, please, Drake, leave me to go. It will bite you and go. Everything in this country is a mess. There is almost nothing that is in line. I have observed from experience and from the few things I do as a young man that whatever goes to the government of Uganda dies a natural death. Universities, a case in point, used to collect money from students directly on the university account. And what happened? They would now avail resources, avail teaching resources, and strikes had really not been a norm in the past. The government of Uganda rationalized those institutions and created what they call a consolidated fund, where money is collected in form of a pool, and then it is now disbursed back to universities. I can tell you, I read Kyambogo for a year. That is the worst thing. When I got a chance to go to State House, reading fellow guild presidents, it's one of the things I hinted on first. If it's money for the university, let it be for the university. Why are we mixing money from Kyambogo with money from Makerere and money from UEDCL? That means that this government, whose priority is not education, shall not fund education first, because it's unapologetically visible that the priorities of this government don't really span with actually donation in this country. For example, in such a political season, comes as a priority. We may need 80 billion to donate in PDM tours, while Kyambogo doesn't have money for staffing and operates at 23% staffing. You get it. 30,000 students, 23% lecturers. So now the same is brought back. I operate some coffee facilities, factories in villages far away from town. And when we were under Umeme, things were okay. These guys would even have an emergency response team and show up. The Uganda Coffee Development Authority, which was totally finished, had done as well as someone would get a coffee export certificate in less than 24 hours. Currently, under the Ministry of Agriculture, we are gambling. So now, that worries me in a country like Uganda, where you say someone who needs to give you money should correct NGOs who don't know how to lobby, NGOs who barely even have a donor, should have a feel and share with those who have even lobbied. You get it? A country where corruption is bigger than what is almost invested in the economy. The money we lose to corruption in a financial year, if invested in the economy, in the business perspective, Uganda would be the best place to be. So now, how do you convince me to trust hundreds of millions of dollars or thousands of millions or billions of dollars with the government of Uganda that we have clearly seen cannot even manage its own money? Because if we have gone as far as borrowing as an economy, but can't even manage the money we borrow, what of the money that comes in free? You get the argument? It is like telling someone, go plant your millet, weed the millet, then I will come and harvest on your behalf. Very unfortunate. Someone has MOUs, someone signs MOUs, people are on planes every day, people don't sleep writing proposals everywhere for grants and donations. And then what happens at the end of the day? A group of people who have been chosen, of course, the rules shall even dictate that the big man in the country shall appoint members of the National Council for NGOs. The few appointed lucky ones shall now be the ones carrying the basket. For those who have put in effort, it's extremely unfortunate. You see, that is one thing that I can tell you, this government is on its way out. Because that's one of the ways of saying, let us suffocate the donors and have them out. Because if you tell someone who doesn't believe in this government, but they are giving it, because if they said, for example, Ugandans who have the capacity to collect some money for heart surgeries, please give this NGO money, I can give in personally. But if they say, give to the government's basket, I will never, upon my dead body, because this government, where Mawanda, for example, who stole hundreds of billions and they were even found at his home, is operating freely. I even have a feeling they returned the money he had stolen to him. And you want to tell Ugandans who have been surviving on NGOs, extremely many students, NGOs educate more students than the government of Uganda at university. It is a fact. You get it? NGOs better life of multiple needy Ugandans than the government itself, because the government has failed. I know they even when they sit in their sitting rooms, they say, oh, we have failed, sure. I know they know. So now, I strongly disagree. And even if it meant one day to be part of the people who will openly talk until when, anyway, talking doesn't help, because the current parliament of Uganda can even amend the Bible. Like, those guys, if given what they want, they will amend the Bible and say, no, you know what, God was African, he's from Kenya. They can. So, of course, when they start talking about these amendments, it worries me a lot that they have now given them another chance to show us that we can commit evil and still move. It is the worst thing you can ever do, trusting the government of Uganda with resources they have even not fought for, because they will not manage them. You see, I think the president is not a very bad man, but the very many people who operate around him make life very complicated. Because I believe President Museveni, in his 40 years of leadership, has always known that NGOs exist. But there must be someone somewhere who thinks now this is yet another basket for us to collect money. So when this money comes, we shall channel. At the end of the day, it's also a consolidated fund. How are you going to tell donors who have been donating for people to survive the current economy to now put in a basket and the economy rewards them? I think this is a government in its evenings. They are trying to forcefully tell us we want to go, but you guys don't want to allow us to go. And these are, of course, all initiatives that come to marginalize. You see, when you touch NGOs, you have not only touched the poor, but touched the poorest. We have people who survive on posho, millet, sorghum, from Compassion International, for example. We have orphans. At every church of Uganda parish, there is a Compassion.
Yeah.
Where orphans who have lost both mother and father due to poor health state in the economy, due to high mortality rates, due to very many problems this economy has brought. And the state itself with its poor systems. Now, I have lost my father because of a big pothole, for example. And the car topples over and I lose him. Now, my little sibling, who had the chance to be registered, to be paid for by a white who even doesn't know him, even is at the verge of losing that. How much more does the government of Uganda want to take from Ugandans? You have taken our resources. You have sold everything we have. You have even borrowed up to an extent that even us who don't even have our first million. I don't have a million, for example. But if they say in statistics, they will say every Ugandan is demanded 6 million. You imagine, I am negative 6 million. So it is quite unfortunate. How much more does the government of Uganda want to take from? You see, I was trying. I searched Google. I went to AI to see what good thing would be from that basket. And I have barely found it. You see, I'm one of the people who try as much as possible to sugarcoat things from the government. Sometimes I give them a benefit of doubt. But no. From the current things of umeme goes and the electricity, we have had the highest power problems in Kampala. From when umeme went. If Narga is on, then Chireka is off. If Chireka is on, then Namugongo is off. That has been, and these days they even shamelessly advertise. We apologize for 24 hours, you will not have power. What happens to someone who operates a clinic and he has patients in ICU? He has to buy a generator and then buy fuel because the government even itself has failed to extract the fuel after it was found. So I don't believe that basket is for the good of Ugandans.
All right.
On any day I will stand and speak. Of course, speaking these days is like blowing words in the air. But I believe that those who have the goodwill and the even reason for the better of Ugandans can also resonate with me. That is the worst thing you can ever do to people who are running NGOs. I plant, I weed, I take care of the garden, and then you come to harvest because after all, you have the powers to. I think the government would come in regulation, but not sincerely saying, bring, and we have a consolidated fund for NGOs. Extremely unfortunate, and I can tell you, if we keep like this, then it's a government that is in its evenings.
Okay.
Unapologetically.
Quite unfortunate. Let me get to you, my brother Gilbert. The government is saying we are benchmarking from Tanzania that has an apex body, a so-called National Council for NGOs. So this National Council has it's more like a regulatory body. For example, the Tanzania's National Council of NGOs, it focuses on coordination, networking, capacity development, information sharing, lobbying, and promoting self-regulation, as well as providing a framework for NGO oversight. However, it is also a fact that the Tanzania civic space is highly regressive or regressed. Now the question would then be, what then does this benchmarking mean for Uganda?
Thank you so much, Drake. I want to begin by just saying that even the last of the hopes we were having is now coming to be taken. If Ugandans have been having hopes in anything, this is one of the things that most Ugandans would actually look up to. And before I even go to that benchmarking and all that, we need to ask ourselves a question. What is the donor-recipient relationship in this country? How does a person maintain a donation? And even winning a donation, people win donations from even people who have never seen them. But I'm talking about an organization that has a donor relationship, that a person knows a person, and because they believe in someone, it's why they want to invest in this vision. Number two, talk about the different values you're bringing together. I, for one, know an entity that died in this country simply because when they got money for donation, they wanted to put them together as a consortium of organizations and say, we shall fund you better together. But what they were doing, they were bringing together different interests of different people and putting them together. Number three, as Ugandans and all people who are running organizations, there are different motives of people who are running them. So if you want to pull us under one umbrella and feed us on the same things, think that we are all doing the same, then you are killing us. Now, the donor relationship. Now, some people will be blunt with you and open with you. I run an organization, first of all, for example. You will sit with the donor and tells you that I know what is happening in Uganda. You guys, corruption at this rate. But I know you we're working on a personal level. So think of that person who, when you tell them, it's now the country that is going to receive my money, plan for how I receive my money and give it to me. You're bringing in a third party, of which this person already doubts the what? And then there is what we call renaming the same evil thing with a sweet name. My brother gave a very good CV of the failures that the government has had. And now, to that CV, you don't want to add on NGOs that has been the hope of Ugandans. When you talk of benchmarking and having the Apex and what, for example, have the NGOs Bureau in Uganda. If you look at what the Apex is doing in Tanzania and what the NGOs Bureau is doing here in Uganda, in fact, what they want to do is that they want to create this bureaucracy and make it even more harder for organizations to operate. Because what are they not doing? Because even now, with the NGOs Bureau alone, the process is so hard. I'm telling you. By the time you register an organization and have it as an NGO, you're sweating plasma. And now they want to add in this body that now comes into enter into your what? Your internal structure of what? Of the NGO. So this means even when we benchmark, this is not about benchmarking, it's not about learning. We have had Ugandans go to benchmark how they can chase locusts in some of the neighboring countries. We have had them go to benchmark how they give us a new curriculum and they come back with the same fake things here. It's not about the benchmarking. They are looking for an excuse of doing the same evil things over time. And when you look at what how other countries are handling these things, in Kenya, in Tanzania, a friend of mine was actually telling me, to register an organization, it needs you to sit on your laptop, have data, and finish. Wait for a certificate of what? Of registration coming through. For us here in Uganda, you walk to an office, leave an office, sign papers, get recommendations, travel from the state, from the capital to the region to the what? By the time you finish, my brother, the whole thing, you're actually fed up. As I conclude, when we look at what is going to happen and what they are pushing to us, they're actually telling us that we are even coming for the little that you guys are still having. Because it is the hope of, if you look at the contribution of NGOs to the development and service delivery in Uganda, they supersede what the government is doing. From medicine, education, and everything that you may want to think about a human being, NGOs are doing much better. And why some other countries will not even come to fund the government as an entity, but will opt for NGOs, is because here they have a contract, they have a relationship with someone, they can question.
But also the accountability measures.
Yeah. You see, when that again happens, and you want to bring in the government that has already failed on these other things, you're breaching the trust within the people. Someone tells you already, even if they say that the government, during COVID, people were contributing money. That should tell you. People, even I think the person who contributed was the senior 4 kid who was in news, who gave money to COVID. Do you know why? It was our problem. It was a communal problem where people were feeling that I am part of this. Once I give this money, it's coming back to me. Portion was coming to people and all that. But after COVID, immediately, they can tell that people got wealth from that money. I am not sure if the same thing comes back and tell Ugandans, please contribute, people are dying, they will say let everyone die or we shall do it ourselves. So we have tested this government on all fronts and it has been clear that they have failed on all these, and that is just something we shall regret if it so happens.
Interesting.
Drake, just a minute. I just want to even make it very clear that corruption has already started in that process. Because I am very sure that benchmarking is just another chance for politicians to get per DM. Because we've seen benchmarking where people go and adopt the wrong. We had a very hot argument sometime back in Kyambogo University Council where we went for benchmarking, and one of the things they learned from UCU was online elections, dress code. Hey, man, this is a public university. You get it? So how are you telling us that now there is no more campaigning? Come back. Then you tell an engineering student who barely can even afford the equipment to dress up in a suit. For what? I am a mechanical engineer. I am playing with oil and pliers and thongs all everywhere. So I think it is one of the wrongest things Ugandans can ever fall for. I know, of course, after voting this government again in power, we are headed for doom, and that is one of it. Thank you.
Sonia, what are your thoughts on the issue of a basket fund?
Thank you very much, Drake. After hearing the upcoming policy reforms, it is very sad, very disappointing. Already as the NGOs, we are still nursing wounds of the freezing funds, and then you hear up something like this coming up. Anything to do with government, we all know what that means. The government is already facing its issues. It's like a couple that is having issues in their marriage and they are trying to solve another couple that is having issues. That is, like the government already has its issues. We know, man, putting politics in the NGOs, it is really very sad, very disappointing, and I just hope and pray that something is done, like something better is done, and these policy reforms are really revised and assessed very well.
Okay. Jotham, as we wind up, the other proposal, which I think is also fundamental for us to look at, is cabinet approval for direct donor funding. Wow. Yeah, it suggests that donors who are not contributing to the basket fund need to approve, the donors need to get approval from cabinet so that they can fund those particular NGOs they're working with directly. What are these implications really for donor relation? As someone who is running an NGO, for someone who has written concepts and proposals, you know.
No, at least for well, it's very tricky and it's very sad, as my colleagues have said. It's one of the toughest times that NGOs are facing right now, as not only here, as it's globally, that we know these NGOs have been very vital and are key pillars in saving a couple of things in health, governance, in democracy, other sectors that they have supported. For example, Save the Children, Compassion, a couple of, mention a few, international transparency, and have given out employment opportunity, well-paying good jobs, and they have also worked tirelessly. World Vision International, that has educated a couple of them, War Child. So to mention a few, just imagine how many Ugandans are employed there. But only besides that impact, let us also focus on the impact they're giving out in the community, how many their different backgrounds and offices in different regions, trying to do an impact. Now, the challenge is, you know, cabinet sits every Monday. That's the every Monday. But then the bureaucracy of you appearing on the cabinet paper, that's another form of thing. And how sure are we that you are going to be guaranteed and approved on terms? Because there are specific funds. For example, we have people who are into climate spaces. who are advocating for social justice. We have those people who have been being arrested every day that stop ECOP. We have people who are into marginalized communities. So there are things that government are not giving priorities, but then they are priority to people. There are spaces, for example, into health sectors where they are giving out, supporting mothers and what. So those are the things that are limited. I saw recently Sarah Pendi was trying to do a private members bill on the fertility clinic and fertility rate, something, the bill about fertility for women. And then the argument was, government, we can do this. Why are we allowing a private member? Why are we allowing a private member of parliament to pass this? So those are the bureaucracies that are going to happen. You write, you want to approve, for example, different specific funds for a different activity, maybe supporting children. You have a specific criteria you are doing. For example, Watch Out, they know these are children who are being affected in this area that have been marginalized for a certain time, for a certain period of time, and they have already done their criteria, they have assessed, and now you are requesting cabinet to approve your own funds that you have solicited for, you have written proposals, you have pleaded for, you have traveled, you have incurred your own expenses to go and fundraise for such program, and then government is saying that you have to do this approval. And then there are going to be a lot of clashes between government and civil society organizations in regards to, for government, for example, government, for it to feel like we need to build more schools than you educating these people. But for example, schools have been there, UPE, universal secondary school education and all that, but they have not been ineffective. So the civil society organizations through NGOs have come in to give a hand and have been a success. If you see the stories of BRAC, they have educated children from Karamoja, from eastern parts of the country, and now they have graduated and have been given employment. So if we limit such spaces, if we limit funding and we say government through cabinet has to approve, and also, by the way, another thing, cabinet has also its own interest. It's one party sided. That this is a cabinet sitting for a ruling government. So let me hope there will be no arguments, and if their political leader says this has to pass, automatically they will say, no, we don't give these people, we don't allow this. And the repercussions are coming. These NGOs will close, and when they close, it's going to come back on us as a country. In health, for example, when they closed USAID, it was a huge tense in the medical sector. And recently, there is no way we can fight this. You saw recently UNHCR, when he was calling out through the UNHCR and the Minister for Disaster, they were calling out for emergency donors to come on board from different parts of the country. So there are things that they are misleading the president from different aspects for their political or for their personal interests and gains, but then they're going to be a very huge repercussion to the country. For example, when they took off DFG, was one of the DGF, sorry, was one of the hugest funders, not only to civil society organizations, but also to government itself. So that's the most challenging thing, that there are things that they are doing, thinking they are costing the civil society organizations, the NGOs and other CBs, the community-based organization, and yet they are doing a repercussion that will cost government on a high rate, because NGOs and government are one. You can never attend a government meeting without a civil society organization. For example, if you go to refugees, you will find a couple of NGOs doing this work randomly. If you go, hand in hand with government. You can't call a meeting with an education sector without calling Watch Out, World Vision International, and BRAC and a couple of organizations, because they are very key stakeholders in this. But when you limit them on funding and you want to question their funding and how they are running their own money, which they have solicited from different partners and donors, written a couple of proposals, trust me, it's not going to work. The bureaucracy and the technicality on cabinet paper is very tough, to an extent that we have huge of government things that have not appeared on the cabinet paper. So how sure are we that in case you want to pass the quarterly money for the academic semester of these children who are going, that government will give it a priority, yet they also have their own pending issues. So to me, this is a red flag to me. If government is planning to pass this, to be honest with you, you are targeting a wrong button, which we shall, both of us suffer, you and I, we shall suffer equally. Thank you, yeah.
A quick one.
Yeah.
I just want to make a simple comment on the final contentious issue, where they say whoever doesn't want to contribute to the basket shall come for approval from cabinet.
Yeah.
Let us just logically think through it. Let's try to reason it. Honestly speaking, how do you say that a beggar shall approve the one who gives the beggar? Like, Drake, I'm giving you. But you tell me, oh, the money should be through Jotham. And if at all you want to give the money directly to me, remember, you're a beggar in this context. You must appear through a committee I select to see whether
you soliciting your own money and
come
you
on,
present
I'm bringing my
own money. Yeah.
to help you. But
In the
you want,
fairness.
you want me to face, you see, I usually joke about education, that teachers have a problem of dealing with very uninterested clients. Guys are not interested and you're talking to them for hours. We have ministers in this country who are ministers because they said, oh, Mzee, we endorse you for sole candidature. And these are people you want to sit down on Monday, bring an American, he books a flight, gets through all this hardship. You know, the air associated problems, the pressure, all the hardship of planes. Come to your country.
The security, we just
Request that I am humbly requesting that you help me and allow me to donate money to this organization. And then what happens? You say, oh no, we have not agreed. Put in the basket. And then he gets back on the plane and takes this resource away. But there is nothing good about this thing.
Unsurprisingly, the statistics show that it's only a few countries that have tried to do this donor, the basket fund, basket fund, and it has not been a success. The most successful country that they want to benchmark to, they have less NGOs, where the recent NGO that lastly exited there, that was Teach for Uganda. No, Teach for Tanzania. We have Teach for Africa, Teach for Tanzania, where they had to leave because of the different repercussions and where government wanted. You requested the donation, that this donation is for education, but government is insisting that that money you want to pay tuition for kids, let us build a government education facility. Priorities. So, and it's not going to work out if we go that, because you are meeting the fountain of the owner, and then we have a lot of priorities that are pending. We have hospitals, and for me, I'm here to facilitate capacity buildings and train young people in politics and democracy. And you think they will accept that, yet we have pending bills and loans that we have to pay for, and you're bringing a lot of billions of money to facilitate capacity building. So we are going to have a couple of clashes between government, international relations, and the civil society organizations.
All right, as we wind up, maybe as you give your concluding remarks, is there a need for continued advocacy?
Of course, as I wind up, we need to continue advocating for what is right. Yeah, because civil society organizations have played a very important role. I know all of us here at the panel, there is in any way, form of, we have benefited from these civil society organizations, and a few things that government couldn't even bring you to your own access. For me, I think I've traveled to different countries because of civil society organizations, which government can't do that. So when I'm advocating for them, I'm advocating for them with passion. I know, yes, because if it wasn't for that opportunity, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have got exposure. Like I keep on telling my friends at universities, I would engage from different spaces. I'm speaking because I've had different platforms. I've engaged with different international and local organizations and relations. So when I'm advocating for this, I'm advocating for it with passion, and I'm requesting government to revise this, and I'm so happy that where we are here, the CG, the Center for Constitution Governance, is doing a great work in recommendation. So I pray that they can adapt such recommendations and they amend what is recommended, not for their own interest, but for the interest of everyone to benefit government, people, and the NGOs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Your concluding remarks, and as
My concluding remarks. I will start with a very normal statement, and I will tell you that you can't teach a child how to dress up from the father's shirt. You get it?
Yeah.
And they can't teach you, they wouldn't have taught you how to put on shoes rightly from your father's shoes. Tanzania is a state that is extremely far away from Uganda economically, because even moving from a district to district, people are on planes in Tanzania. The economy of Tanzania multiplies the economy of Uganda by exponential.
True.
It's not just by 5 or by 10, it's by power something. So it's extremely huge. You get it? So if you're benchmarking and you say, oh, this one even left Tanzania because they didn't qualify for this, you're really learning from the wrong people. The honest thing would have been we go and learn from our fellow poor countries who are also surviving on donations, and then we can now say, oh, from what we have seen, this is it. But you can't go and learn from a superpower state. You say, oh, America has these regulations, and you send people on a plane to go and learn from there, and then they will come and lie to Ugandans. It's inapplicable. You get, at the end of the day, there is the difference, the margin between reality and economy of their country and ourselves is as big as the distance from here to heaven. I don't know how long it is, but I've been working for it from when I was born up to today. So my parting shot is we pray and look forward for more space like this. And in future, I pray, and it's really my humble prayer, that platforms like this may not just stop here, but go as far as schools, universities, where we can attract multiple opinions, because this is where we even have direct beneficiaries of these NGOs. You find Kyambogo with a population of 33,000 students, 1,000 are on government. 4,000 are paid for by. So that shows you that we are talking about something that is about life, survival, and perishing. We are talking about something that is about services, service delivery, and good service delivery. There is a difference. We can all allege that the government provides services, but what is the state of the services and how is the delivery is usually another question. As I conclude, let's continue the advocacy, like you asked my brother, Jotham. Let's continue advocating. But I even think that there is no amount of fasting that may deliver this country the way it is now. So I was going to recommend fasting and praying for this country, but that is not an option.
Yeah.
We must stand, speak, and follow up what we spoke. At the end of the day, everything will be okay. Thank you so much.
Sonia, your concluding remarks.
I honestly don't know what the government is up to with all of this. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But like personally, I have been a leader in my high school and what, but because of politics with its dirty game and with all the bad things to do with politics, I decided to express my leadership skills in the other side of like spaces like NGOs. It is a safe space. There is no grumbling. There is no fighting for positions. All those things. So when we have upcoming reforms like these ones, we are going to have those problems again this side, which I would not want us to have. So I also advocate for, like, I also recommend that we have continued advocacy, much as we have different interests as NGOs, but I pray that we come together and refuse this, honestly.
Yeah. We mobilize together and work together. Yeah.
And also, NGOs have given us so many platforms, which the government has not even.
It
Yes,
can't.
I can also say this unapologetically.
Yeah.
Yes, NGOs like Better Life, Hopestone Insight Uganda, and Acts 101, they have honestly played a big impact in my life as for now.
Yeah.
And also having more platforms like these ones.
And you see, the Center for Constitutional Governance is offering this platform as well, because
I think the most
we
unfortunate
don't.
thing, the most unfortunate thing is the notion and the purpose behind. Because I usually want to dig and find out why are they doing this. So you find recently the president of Tanzania posted on her X, oh, these people from the West, they want to disorganize us with their motives. And then of course you even realize students, for example, against ECOP, when they are arresting the government alleges these are people serving interests of the West. Hey, this is wrong. No. No. People have a right to say a no is a no, and we shall not start sugarcoating. After that, you see this spade. If you mold it a little bit, it can be a big spoon. You get it? It is wrong, and we pray that the right should be done.
All right.
Just to conclude,
Yeah.
let the government stay in their lane. Let it first deal with yeah, let the government first deal with their issues before they now come to
shrink.
Yeah.
I think they can focus
let
on
everyone first
regulation.
regulation,
They can focus on
registration,
let them better
regulation,
themselves.
and licensing.
And monitoring.
And monitoring.
Yeah.
And of course, funds need to be controlled the way they flow in. Because we have had very many cases of money laundering through NGOs. That regulation is where I tick the box. But a basket and saying, please come and seek approval. If you want to know that Uganda is hard, go to a ministry seeking a certain approval without knowing anyone.
I know.
Your life will end the day.
Just no, say,
You go.
mention it Mulango Hospital. Ministry.
So basically, honestly speaking, we just pray that government should focus on its priorities, because this is not one of the priorities, and life will move on.
All right. Gilbert, concluding remarks and wind up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Every time you see something happen, it's always good to ask the why question. Where is it coming from? From our discussions today, we all agree that there is a leadership crisis in this country.
Of course.
Because from the beginning of our discussion, we're talking about things that our people we have trusted to do some work for us, and this is what they are bringing to us. And when you look at whatever is happening in the leadership landscape of Uganda, whatever is happening in our people, by the time someone arrives at such a decision, they are not themselves. Because if someone comes, they are shooting themselves in the feet, because something is helping you on where you have failed. Like I said, this is the hope of many Ugandans, and that's why you're coming to do what? To put all these stringent measures, which means that there must be something we are not paying attention to. Which people are they that are leading us? If we look at this leadership question in this country, how are we getting out of it? Because today, last time it was coffee passed, it was electricity passed, now it's to NGOs. These guys are coming to everything. If you look at the taxes of this country, they are almost taxing everything.
They even tax you for living.
In India, they're coming to the builders on the site, the builders are coming to them. So you're looking at something that we're looking at leadership crisis. Now, as a country and as members, I want to say that advocacy should really continue. We should never stop at any moment. And I want to create spaces like these ones that allow us to come here and maybe express these things openly. They will be there thinking maybe the young people who are there don't know what is happening. But they should not, in the watch of the world, we are also seeing whatever is happening, and we are critiquing most of these things. My prayer is this thing gets to be reversed, and Uganda gets into a better position of handling NGOs, and allowing Ugandans enjoying the privilege of being served better by the NGO world. Thank you.
Government should even focus on how to fund NGOs rather than take away from. It is hard to be a Ugandan. We may even need to be paid to stay in this country because everything is a mess. So government needs to focus on how to even support the NGOs more, especially in 2021 we had 54 NGOs suspended alone. These are 54 people who have been helping the state to make life better. So I think regulation, registration, supervising or monitoring is the way to go. But
Compliance.
but cutting off their head and suffocating them is never a measure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You've had the views of the young people. It's been a very interesting show. I've enjoyed it. I've also gotten to learn and also picked a couple of insights regarding to the conversation we had in the first half and the sentiments around the proposed reforms in the NGO space, which of course all of us share similar sentiments. Thank you very much, Jotham, Gilbert, Sonia, and Reagan for taking time to join us in this conversation. This has been the Inter-University Debates. My name is Douglas Drake Onen. Thank you very much to the Center for Constitutional Governance for making this possible, Civic Space TV, and to you, our dear esteemed viewers, for always religiously following this particular conversation, but also Civic Space TV. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.